Welcome to the debate. For the first time ever, Japan's fighter jets have landed in Europe. I mean, this is a truly historic move, one that, well, it really could reshape global defense alliances.
Absolutely. And today we're looking into the strategic significance of that deployment by the Japan Air Self-Defense Force, the JSDF, specifically the Atlantic Eagles mission to the UK and Germany.
Right, it was quite something. Two F-15 fighter jets, but also the support craft, the KC-767, the new KC-46A, C-2 transports making over 13,000-kilometer journey. Quite the logistical feat to get them to Europe for exercises.
Indeed. So the real debate here is, does this deployment signal the definitive start of a new, really robust, geographically wide NATO Indo-Pacific global defense network? Or is it perhaps better seen as maybe a limited strategic hedge, something driven by uncertainty where the political symbolism, for now at least, outweighs the actual operational significance?
And I'll be arguing that this deployment is a tangible, transformative step towards exactly that kind of robust, interoperable global network. It's fundamentally changing Japan's security posture.
And I'll maintain that, while historic, yes, this mission is fundamentally an act of political signaling. A strategic hedge, certainly, but one constrained by some very real limitations in capability and, importantly, doctrine, at least for the moment.
Okay, I see why you prioritize the constraints, but let me offer a different perspective. Let's focus on the intentionality, the political structure being built here. This Atlantic Eagles mission, it's a powerful symbol, yes, but it's a symbol of operational trust and shared purpose. It directly links the Euro-Atlantic and Indo-Pacific security theaters. It's probably the clearest operational proof we've had that security in these two quite distant regions is, as they say, inseparable and interrelated, driven by shared worries about Russia's invasion of Ukraine and, of course, China's growing assertiveness. And look beyond just the two F-15s. Look at the legal and logistical framework this whole mission validates. It showed Japan's credible logistical reach. That massive Trans-Oceanic route is no small thing, and it validated the strategic benefits of these foundational bilateral deals, like the UK-Japan Reciprocal Access Agreement, the RAA. That agreement makes moving troops and gear between the countries much simpler. And crucially, this action, it's clearly giving a huge boost, I think, to the industrial effort behind the Trilateral Global Combat Air Program, GCAP. It forces that necessary cultural alignment, the shared procedures across the partner nations, starting right now.
Okay, that's a compelling argument, especially tying it into the high-level agreements like the RAA and GCAP. But have you considered the underlying constraints that maybe limit the deployment's actual transformative power right now? I mean, this cooperation, isn't it significantly motivated by the prospect of geopolitical uncertainty? Particularly, let's be frank, the possibility of a fickle U.S. administration perhaps after 2025? Doesn't this force Japan and Europe to develop greater strategic autonomy? The ability to act without necessarily waiting for a U.S. green light? That makes this deployment feel more like a necessary plan B, a hedge, rather than solid proof of a robust new network already in place?
Well, hedging and building are not mutually exclusive.
Perhaps not, but we also have to look at what was actually deployed. The F-15J Eagles, they're an aging fleet. The average age is around 35 to 37 years. Now, yes, they've been upgraded, but Japan's Air Force still faces a, frankly, severe attrition disadvantage regionally against a much younger, much larger Chinese fleet. So this suggests the deployment's real military value in a hypothetical major conflict is, currently limited. It's more of a demonstration piece. And finally, Tokyo remains, let's say, exceptional within the U.S. alliance network because of its constitutional limits. Collective self-defense is only allowed under very strict conditions, like a Saner-Sutsukiki jitai, an existential crisis situation. That severely limits how operationally useful the JSDF can actually be alongside NATO in scenarios that don't directly threaten Japan's survival.
Okay, let's focus on that distinction you made, operational intent versus the specific platform used. You focus on the age of the F-15s, seeing them as just a token, but I'd argue the operational breakthrough wasn't just those jets, It was the logistical tail, the whole operation. This deployment was fundamentally about standardizing military practice, about building those foundational operational blocks for the future.
The logistics.
Exactly. Think about the logistical validation. Japan proved it could use both its KC-46A and its older KC-767 tankers together across 13,500 kilometers. That level of strategic endurance, that mission planning capability, that's new, and it's significant. And the exchanges that happen on the ground, the tactical discussions, sharing procedures, coordinating with RAF Typhoons in the UK and German Typhoons in La Manche, these are the essential building blocks that make future, maybe larger cooperation actually possible. Japan is proactively carving out a new international role here. It's vital for stabilizing its region, sure, but it's also about showing it can project some power to defend its global interests, moving beyond a purely defensive stance.
I come at it from a different angle, I suppose. While the intent is certainly operationalization, I grant you that, the immediate effect still feels largely like political messaging. That impressive logistical feat, and yes, I agree, it's a significant new capability for the JSDF. It doesn't quite negate the overall scale issue for me. Sending two F-15Js, it's a powerful declaration of shared purpose, shared values, absolutely. But does it represent a capability projection sufficient to really move the needle in, say, a long war of attrition scenario? I don't think so. Not yet. It functions primarily as a calibrated, very high-profile message of deterrence to authoritarian rivals, showcasing solidarity. It's not a genuine immediate shift in the military balance of power itself. The capability projection part, it still feels largely symbolic at this stage.
Okay, but even if we accept it's primarily political messaging right now, doesn't that make the industrial tie-in like GCAP the real long-term game changer here? That's where the substance builds.
That is the pivotal point, isn't it? The link to the Global Combat Air Program, GCAP. It's undeniably compelling on paper, but, well, we can't ignore the history of multinational defense projects, can we? Things like the Tornado, the Eurofighter Typhoon, they experienced severe cost escalations, political infighting, massive delays. Now, given Japan's, frankly, limited experience in leading this kind of large-scale international industrial cooperation and the need for really seamless coordination over decades, tying this singular short-term deployment to GCAP's guaranteed success might be, well, a bit premature. The analysis itself stresses the need for unprecedented synergies, and we also have to consider that immediate funding demands, urgent logistical needs for existing NATO air forces could easily compete with GCAP's long-term financing. That could put real stress on that very ambitious 2035 fighter project.
Right. I grant you the history of multinational projects is fraught. That specific concern is well-founded, absolutely. But where does that fear leave us now, when the geopolitical urgency feels so much higher? GCAP is explicitly mentioned by defense ministers as a key driver for this kind of cooperation. This deployment, I argue, is precisely part of addressing those inherent risks you mentioned. It's about forcing that cultural and doctrinal alignment now, before the big money gets spent. This operational interaction, these exercises, they build the essential community of practice that's absolutely required for that trilateral industrial ecosystem, Mitsubishi, Leonardo, BAE Systems, to actually succeed in the long term. This isn't just about sharing blueprints down the line. It's about standardizing data protocols, operational philosophies, things that must be agreed upon before that sixth-gen fighter even enters production.
Building the community of practice.
Exactly. And moving back to the question of sustainability and scale, I genuinely believe this is just the start of a more sustained effort. Military leaders involved have suggested the goal is to make this kind of deployment a regular event, and maybe eventually it could be complemented by similar deployments of ground forces, naval forces, maybe even special operations elements. This sustained presence, complementary to, yes, but also separate from the United States, gives Japan and Europe enhanced collective political authority, greater strategic agency on the world stage. It's about being able to act internationally regardless of what the White House might decide in any given year.
I'm still not quite convinced by that line of reasoning, mainly because the core imbalance remains. Both Japan and Europe still rely incredibly heavily on the US for strategic security, particularly the nuclear umbrella. Now, yes, Japan is rapidly accelerating its military buildup. The defense budget is huge now, exceeding $56 billion. But can Europe and Japan really deter China single-handedly in the Indo-Pacific? I seriously doubt it. The small scale of this deployment and the advanced age of the F-15Js used, it just underlines that this serves a dual political purpose. One, demonstrating burden sharing to help keep America engaged, and two, hedging against potential future U.S. disengagement.
But isn't that a necessary step towards greater autonomy?
It's a step, yes, but it doesn't fundamentally replace the reliance on U.S. strategic power, especially in the Pacific. It's fascinating watching Japan navigate this tension. How do you project global influence while still adhering to that foundational post-war mandate? Until Japan permits, let's say, full-spec collective self-defense and dramatically expands its force projection capabilities, this remains a crucial political demonstration, absolutely vital. It's a necessary move towards greater autonomy, I agree there, but we have to acknowledge it's still fundamentally tethered to the reality of U.S. strategic protection in the Pacific.
So, to summarize my view, the Atlantic Eagles mission represents a landmark achievement. It fundamentally changes the scope of Japan's defense posture. It solidifies the operational and industrial connections through things like the RAA and GCAP, which are necessary to build a truly global allied security network. And it moves Japan decisively towards a more proactive international role, based on shared values and, now, proven logistical capability.
It is vital, yes, as a strategic hedge against instability and a clear demonstration of common values. Its substantive impact is, for now, limited. Limited by scale and limited by the powerful constraint of Japanese constitutional prohibitions against the comprehensive use of force for collective defense. The enduring dependence on the U.S., the need to manage aging assets while embarking on incredibly complex industrial projects like GCAP, it all suggests that the reshaping of defense alliances is still very much a long-term aspiration, not quite a current operational reality.
I think we can agree the source material confirms we're navigating a period where geopolitical maps are definitely being redrawn.
Absolutely, and the complexity of modern security really demands that we keep examining how these new minilaterals, these partnerships, will achieve the resilience they need to sustain strategic advantage over multiple decades. It's a long game.
Indeed. Well, thank you, everyone, for your time and participation today. Please do like, share, and subscribe to Global Warwatch Network if you found this discussion valuable.
And please do share your own thoughts on the Atlantic Eagles mission in the comments section below. We'd love to hear your perspective. You could also join us on social media. All the links are provided in the description.